Alright, the Eagles are back with rookie minicamp starting up, and we got a first look at several of the guys practicing. However, which ones didn't, and is that a reason for concern? Plus, why should Dorian Thompson-Robinson be concerned about Kyle McCord taking his spot? Meanwhile, Jordan Davis is here to stay, but that's just the beginning of what Howie Roseman is doing. And with so many spots up for grabs, Smael Mondon has his sights set on special teams. And so do the Birds apparently, so could Philly be switching up punters? Let's talk about that and everything else from minicamp, but first, let's run it. What's up, guys? I'm back after some much-needed family time, and also thank you for those of you that reached out. We should be back on our regularly scheduled programming now. And speaking of that schedule, the Eagles are also back as well with their first day of rookie minicamp kicking off, and the full duration set to go from May 2nd to May 5th. Of course, the Birds did also announce the official numbers for those rookies, so tell you what, I've had a streak of giving away a rookie jersey each video since the draft, and since we're at minicamp, it only feels appropriate to keep it up. All I need you to do is go down and drop a like on this video, and then after dropping a like on this video, go down to the comments section and let me know what you're most excited about for rookie minicamp. As always, once you do that, you'll be entered into the drawing that I'll have next Tuesday night during the live stream. Now, personally, my favorite interview clip might be Ty Robinson's take.
He said I went to a great and the best organization in the NFL. So with that, I'll take that any day of the week.
You got to admit he's not wrong, although when it comes to jerseys, it's pretty difficult to decide which one to choose.
Is there any way that you could do all of them?
Sorry, you're going to have to choose, unfortunately, but to help you, or at least hopefully help you, the Eagles did announce the official numbers for those rookies. First, we've got first-round draft pick Jihaad Campbell going with number 30, which is pretty cool when you think about the fact that Campbell also wore 30 earlier in his college career at Alabama. Plus, we've now gone back-to-back drafts with a first-round pick starting out with 30. Don't forget, Quinyon Mitchell was 30 until 27 opened up due to the cut of Zach McPherson. Anyway, for round 2, safety Andrew Scuba Mukuba is going with 24. Now, personally, I like to think of him as Drew Mamba Mukuba since the Texas Enforcer specifically chose 24. Although, yes, the last player to wear 24 for the Eagles was James Bradberry, but regardless of how you feel about him, give the man some credit because he was a consummate professional with how he handled things every single time. Next, we have defensive tackle Ty Robinson taking number 95, meaning the wait is over on which jersey the Nebraskan Vanilla Gorilla is going to roll with. And I know it's not a secret at all, but I am absolutely a fan of that. Of course, as for UCF cornerback McWilliams, he chose to go with number 22 thanks to Keely Ringo changing his number to 7. And then Smael Mondon, the linebacker from Georgia, is taking 42, or at least for now. Granted, you never really know on these, yet I wouldn't be surprised if he switched once a few of the other numbers opened up. And then as for some of the offensive line rookies, Boston College guard Drew Kendall chose to go with 66, Michigan tackle Myles Hinton is rocking the 7-8, and Texas tackle Cameron Williams chose 73. Also, Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord ended up choosing 19 after that opened up since Josh Sweat signed with Arizona earlier in the offseason. And then the last draft pick for the Eagles this year, Antwaun Powell-Ryland, landed Milton Williams' old number 93, which is honestly not too shabby for a 6th-round pick and the Eagles' last pick of the draft. Also, when it comes to APR, I'm a big fan of his mindset when it comes to people doubting him based on his size.
I love the game. It's not really... as long as I get a shot, that's all I need. I'm not really worried about what it is that, how big my arms are or, how big I am. I'm a ball player. You cut on the tape, you're going to see it. So, yeah, I'm just happy with the opportunity.
I'm telling you, keep an eye on that dude, but we can debate in the comments in terms of the jerseys, the arguments there, what one's the best choice, or if you're one of those people that says it doesn't even matter, why are we talking about it? That's totally fine, but I do think the new selections told us a good bit about Philly's future plans at several positions. Like NBC's Dave Zangaro noted, there were some pretty obvious winners coming away from the 2025 NFL Draft, namely guard Tyler Steen. After all, the Birds didn't select an O-lineman until day 3. And even more importantly, out of those selections, none of the 3 has significant experience playing guard. Granted, you're right, Kenyon Green is still competition for Mean Steen, so nothing's off the table, but you gotta admit, Tyler Steen's trajectory is at least trending upward. However, I should point out that Drew Kendall did admit that he played some guard in high school and is definitely looking forward to getting reps there with the Eagles. And not only that, but Cameron Williams also revealed that O-line coach Jeff Stoutland recently brought up Mekhi Becton's transition from left tackle to right guard last season with him, so don't entirely rule out that option either.
I never thought of that.
I mean, all bets are off when trying to predict where guys are going to pan out with Stout, but at the same time, I would be very surprised in his rookie season if Cameron Williams ends up making that move from right tackle. He played right tackle, not left tackle, but either way, right tackle to right guard. But sticking with the offense, Jahan Dotson has to be feeling good about his potential usage this year, especially considering the Eagles didn't take a single wide receiver in the draft. Now, clearly, it's not like Dotson ever had a massive role with 19 catches for 216 yards in the regular season. But his level of play elevated significantly in the playoffs, and perhaps Philly believes that trend will continue. Of course, when it comes to the defense, Kelee Ringo is looking more and more likely to land the starter spot on the outside. I mean, sure, there's still a long way to go, but waiting until the 5th round to take McWilliams out of UCF didn't feel like an altering decision to the cornerback spot. By the way, something to note when it comes to Ringo's untapped potential, and yes, I've said that I'm kind of questioning, I don't know if he'll fully live up to the hype, but still, you can't knock the fact that A.J. Brown has gone on the record multiple times to praise Ringo's ability. And believe it or not, but the Philly dog is actually still younger than McWilliams, who's obviously a rookie this year, yet Ringo has 2 years experience in the NFL already. Look, I'm hopeful that I get proven wrong and he ends up being locked down. I mean, if that ends up happening, you're talking about 5 to 6 Philly dogs out there on the defense. Regardless, though, there's one of those dudes who is for sure a winner coming off the NFL draft, and that is Jordan Davis. Thanks to Howie Roseman picking up JD's 5th-year option, guaranteeing that the former first-rounder will remain in Philly through the 2026 season. Think about it. That's Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, Moro Ojomo, Jalix Hunt, and Ty Robinson through at least the next 2 years. Heck, you can throw in Jihaad Campbell if you want, although remember, it's sounding like he's going to end up starting at off-ball linebacker instead of edge based on Fran Duffy sharing multiple sources are telling him the plan is to go that direction first and then they'll see. Which corresponds to one NFL executive echoing that sentiment, and that Vic Fangio will use Jihaad Campbell and Zach Bond like Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman in San Francisco.
You know, it's one of those ideas where you're just like, yes!
Come on, who wouldn't sign up for that immediately? But either way, back to JD, that's one of those moves of stability that not every team has the luxury of making. So when it came to locking up the nose tackle for another year, Howie Roseman shared Jordan Davis was an easy decision.
When you watch Jordan and how he looked the second half of the season, and that's a big part of it, how he looked. Mm-hmm. He was in great physical condition and shape. He was disrupted during the playoff run. We forget, again, like players still develop. You know, when you look at the history of defensive tackles in the National Football League, you see a lot of really successful guys that people forget took to year 3 and 4 to really hit their stride. And we think he is just in his stride. This guy is going to play really good football for us here. He's an unbelievable person, worker, leader. And I think the sky's the limit for him. I think that, he feels it, and he's got tremendous confidence. And I'm excited for our fans to understand why we thought it was a really easy decision for us to pick up the option.
It makes perfect sense. I just had it completely wrong because the Eagles had taken all the way to the last second and hadn't picked up the option. But kudos to you guys. Those of you suggesting, saying, no, they're probably just working out a deal with JD. If they can't get it done, you add the deal on, you add extra time, you give yourself extra time, and eventually it'll get done. Plus, when you took into account the Birds not drafting a nose tackle and the kind of contract Milton Williams got at a $104 million for 4 years with the Patriots, then the $13 million option pickup seems like a very sensible bet, or at least it does to me. I mean, FYI, but at $13 million next season, Jordan Davis would rank as the 28th most among defensive tackles on an annual basis. So personally, you're winning either way. If JD plays really well, you got him locked up for 1 more year, and if he doesn't, then, maybe you try to get an extension done, team-friendly deal. We've talked about that one before. Now, if I had to bet, my money's on JD continuing that upward trend. And realistically, the more you dive into it, his play may not always show up in the stat sheet, but he's a more important force in the middle than you may realize. But more than that, and maybe most importantly, it keeps that connection and chemistry and morale in the building for the long term. And let's be real, that is 100% one of the biggest ingredients to the team's success. Remember, it's one of the Eagles' core values, and it's impossible to overstate how valuable that is.
Guys, I know, and I told you this about why I talk about my family a lot, and why I kind of correlate the two. I know in my core, I know deep down that connection, accountability, details, and toughness wins. And it makes good men too, right? I know in my core, guys, I'm raising my family on it. I know, keep plugging away. Hungry and humble. Hungry and humble.
Oh, come on. I watch y'all play, bro. That shit inspired me, bro. I've been told this, I've been playing for this for 5 years. I said, Cole, you my leader, Cole. Yeah. You step there, Cole, you playing a big role too, Cole. Appreciate it. Let's go. Yes, sir.
I'm just saying, we watched this team face some adversity early on in the season, and all they did was double down on those core values and then end up winning a Super Bowl. Sure, no one's stupid enough to say you don't need talent, yet I think it's noteworthy just how much connection this rookie class had to the Philly way before getting selected. Which I talked about in the previous video, but it's like every single rookie has connections with a player on the team or a coach or even a combination of those. And on the topic of connections, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter showed up to support some of the Rooks on day 1 of minicamp. Like I've said in the past, and maybe it's crazy, but it just feels right to see the guys in midnight green. Of course, while Jihaad Campbell was at practice, he wasn't practicing since he's still recovering from the torn labrum that he had surgery on. But no, it's incredibly early, so I don't think there's any reason to panic. Yet like Dave Zangaro confirmed, he was at least standing with the off-ball linebackers when it came to positional drills. So make of that what you will, but we did get to see some of the other rooks in action, like Drew Mukuba chatting it up with Sirianni, along with several of the other guys going through drills, such as the wide receiver group, and I don't know if there will be one to make the roster, but I'd keep my eye on Tarleton State receiver Darius Cooper. Remember, he's 5'11", 210 pounds, and an undrafted free agent who led the FCS in receiving yards last season. I'm just saying if I had to pick one, he'd probably be my dark horse candidate in terms of who sneaks a roster spot. Okay, I want to bring this up because I've seen some DMs and comments about Washington wide receiver Giles Jackson asking if he was signed, and technically he wasn't. However, the part that gets confusing is that Washington actually announced his signing, and the Eagles even briefly had him on their roster before removing him from the website. And he is actually still at minicamp, it's just that he's participating as a tryout and not a signing. Now, either way, if you're not up on Jackson, he started at Michigan and almost immediately flashed his unique ability in the return game. For real, he had 2 kick returns over 90 yards. Granted, there's some that'll knock him for taking 6 years before he's getting out of college, but last season at Washington, he had 85 passes caught for nearly 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. Plus, he carried the ball an additional 33 times for 183 yards and 2 touchdowns as well. I mean, we talk about Avery Williams and the versatility that he brings, and I don't mind Giles Jackson in terms of competition, but it's just odd that he was announced and he was on the roster and then taken back. I don't know how that happens. And then if I had to predict a defensive player to keep your eye on, I'd say Maxen Hook from Toledo. Don't forget, he played with Quinyon Mitchell and isn't afraid to do the dirty work on special teams, which is also exactly the same area Smael Mondon is hoping to take advantage of with his crazy speed and athleticism so that he can earn more playing time.
Yeah, for sure. Special teams like the way I got on the field at Georgia, and then I would have stayed on there. They would have kept me on there. So special teams is like, I feel like it's a lot of guys' intro, and then, so I kind of grew a big love for special teams at UGA. And then as far as like a favorite unit, I'd probably say the most fun I had while playing was kickoff, for sure.
There is no question that Philly has tons of options when it comes to special teams. I mean, you look down this roster, go look at the athleticism, the 40-yard dash times, the athletes, guys that are playing. If Sidney Brown's not a starter, another guy for special teams. They got a lot of options there for some creativity, and it should be much better. Of course, another player that's worth mentioning for the versatility and position change is Niko Lalos, which, in case you don't recall, and as Anthony DeBona texted me to point out and share of the intrigue, Lalos was an undrafted free agent from Dartmouth who was signed by the New York Giants in 2020. Unfortunately, he didn't really pan out, but at 6'4", 270 pounds, the Seattle Sea Dragons of the XFL took a chance on the edge rusher, and he played fairly well, racking up 35 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, and 1 interception. In fact, it was so good that he ended up getting signed by the New Orleans Saints in 2023 and had an insane preseason game against the Chargers. No joke, the Ohio native ended the contest with 5 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks. Yet once again, that didn't amount to much. He ended up holding on to a roster spot for a couple months and ended up getting cut in November. Here's the thing. If you look closely at the list of players fighting for roster spots and invited to the Eagles rookie minicamp, Lalos is now transitioning to long snapper. I mean, I've lost count at this point of how many guys Philly's brought in and looking at different roles or transitioning, just the hybrid versatility, but I think it speaks to the coaching staff and looking and saying, look, that dude's a football player. He's got a lot of tools in his body, is how he likes to say. Let's see if we can maximize those, and heck, maybe there's another position for him to play. Also, for the record, real quickly on that guard versus tackle argument, Cameron Williams was getting reps at right tackle. Still, though, it's the first day, so to get creative with various positions may not even happen until we get it to training camp in late July. Now, while there's tons of winners from all these moves, it's pretty a fair assessment to think Dorian Thompson-Robinson's stock took a big hit when Howie drafted Kyle McCord. And seeing as though McCord's getting all the reps at minicamp and is literally the only quarterback present certainly helps his chances. Plus, in case you hadn't heard, Kyle has strong ties to Eagles' new quarterback coach Scott Loeffler, who came from the college ranks.
We go way back. When I was in 8th grade, he was at Boston College, and he offered me a scholarship in 8th grade. So I've known him forever. So, and we've kept in touch, too. He's one of the few college coaches that I didn't play for that I would still have a lot of conversation with. And now to be playing for him, I mean, you never know how your paths are going to cross. And so to be, in his first year here and obviously my first year in the NFL, being together is pretty sweet.
How good were you at 8th?
Finally got you, like what's kind of to join up finally?
Yeah, I mean, he was on the draft call, and I mean, there was just so much emotion when I first got the call, and then hearing his voice, I was like, oh man, like that's crazy, seeing how far we've come. I think it was 2017 is when I first met him, and then now, whatever it is, eight years later, reuniting. So it is pretty cool to just kind of see that come full circle. That was, well, He was my first offer, but so he told my high school coach. My high school coach held it for me because he didn't think I deserved it yet, being in 8th grade, which is fair. So I guess technically, yes, that was my first offer, but I didn't know about it until a few months later.
How good were you in 8th grade?
I was all right. I mean, I had, a strong arm, and, my footwork was pretty solid. But, I mean, you look back at those videos and, you think you're the best, and there's, so much to clean up. But I was pretty good.
Just find out about it a few months later.
So I didn't start my freshman year at the prep, and after our senior quarterback committed to his school, then my head coach brought me in his office after the season and was like, they offered you back in June, but I feel like now is the time, to tell you. So it kind of felt like, I missed out a little bit, not knowing, but it is a funny story.
You said he was one of the few opposing coaches that kept in touch. How much did you keep in touch over the years?
I mean, just this last year at Syracuse, I think I talked to him maybe 3 times throughout the season, which, I mean, is a good amount for someone who you're not playing for. And, he'd reach out after games and, give advice and congratulate me and stuff like that. And obviously he was still in college too, so we had no idea that it was even a possibility. And then met with him on Zoom when he got the job, sat down, watched some film on Zoom together, but obviously you have no idea where you're going at that point. So, it's crazy to see it come full circle.
Look, DTR has a chance, but it's a very small one because you think about the fact that McCord has multiple years on his contract, so the Eagles have the control there, and DTR has not had too much success in his career early on. Granted, you're right, yes, that was with Cleveland, so maybe he surprises people and wins out on the QB3 job. Although who knows, we could have another underrated quarterback option in punter Kai Kroeger. Okay, yes, that's a bit of a joke. However, Kroeger is someone that multiple beat writers have said to keep an eye on. Because not only was he a second-team All-American at South Carolina while averaging nearly 48 yards per punt last year, but over the course of his career, he's thrown 10 passes, completed 7 of them, with 3 of those going for scores. Seriously, you tell me, but does that dude look like a punter throwing the ball? At the same time, Braden Mann was awesome last season, and I don't know that punter is a big concern, yet, competition never hurts. Either way, for the few asking if the Eagles have brought in competition for Jake Elliott at the kicker spot, it appears that they have not. He definitely struggled at times, but we did find out that he played through a bit of an injury, and ultimately he made them when it mattered most. Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts on the latest updates from camp, and I will leave you with the most recent number changes for the Eagles. Thanks to Zach Berman, we got cornerback Adoree Jackson, who went with number 8, edge Josh Uche, who took 13, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who took number 14, wide receiver Avery Williams got 18, running back A.J. Dillon ended up with 29, wide receiver Terrace Marshall got 46, Charlie Hewitt, long snapper, was 47, and then both edges in Patrick Johnson was 48, and Azeez Ojulari 52, as well as offensive lineman Kendall Lamb at 74, Kenyon Green got 76, and then tight ends Kylan Granson was 83, and tight end Harrison Bryant was 85. Again, talking about jerseys, drop a like on the video, make sure to get entered for the jersey giveaway. Until next time, this has been the Philly Special.